Travis Keene believed he had found the perfect arrest, a luxury sedan, a damaged taillight, and a driver who did not fit his prejudiced idea of success. He ignored her calm warnings. He ignored the detailed paperwork she offered him. He saw a trophy arrest instead of a human being. But when Travis entered the courtroom for the next court session, every trace of air seemed to leave his lungs. The woman he had handcuffed, humiliated, and thrown into a cell was not merely another suspect. She was the Honorable Judge Mariah Whitfield. As she adjusted her judicial robes and lifted the gavel, Travis understood that his life was over. The rain in Seattle did not simply fall. It seemed determined to erase the city. Water hammered the highway, transforming the asphalt into a black, shining river that reflected the blurred neon of passing signs. Judge Mariah Whitfield tightened her hands around the steering wheel. Her knuckles did not turn white, but her posture remained rigid. She had endured a long day inside the King County Courthouse, presiding over felony sentencing hearings and exhausting legal arguments that continued late into the evening. Mariah was not elderly, but the lines surrounding her eyes carried the weight of countless judgments. She drove a flawless charcoal gray Mercedes S-Class. She had recently purchased it as a personal reward for a long and distinguished career upon the bench. Mariah checked the rear view mirror. Traffic had become lighter as she approached the suburbs, where the city's sprawling buildings gradually surrendered to the dark tree lines near the shoreline. Then flashing lights cut through the darkness. Blue and red strobes reflected wildly across the rain-soaked interior of the Mercedes. Mariah sighed. It was a sound of deep exhaustion rather than fear. She glanced toward the speedometer. She was driving below the posted limit. The vehicle registration was current. Her proof of insurance rested inside the glove compartment. Mariah activated the turn signal and carefully moved toward the shoulder. Gravel crunched beneath the tires as the expensive sedan stopped. Behind her, the patrol vehicle idled aggressively. A spotlight struck the side mirror and temporarily blinded her. Officer Travis Keene remained inside the cruiser while the engine hummed. He was a young officer with limited experience and an appetite not for justice but for action. The shift had been uneventful. Most of his calls involved noise complaints and a wandering dog. Travis entered the Mercedes' license plate into the mobile data terminal. The system responded slowly. The storm interfered with the connection. The screen loaded, displayed a partial error, and returned a no-record found alert caused by a glitch that sometimes affected newly transferred custom plates. To Travis, the combination of no record, a luxury vehicle, and severe weather could mean only one thing. Phantom plates, probably a stolen car. Probably gonna run, he muttered. Gotcha. Travis adjusted his body camera and confirmed that the green indicator light was flashing. Then he stepped into the rain. He did not put on his hat. He enjoyed the appearance of a police officer standing beneath the storm. It made him feel like one of the heroes from the movies. Mariah lowered her window slightly as he approached. Cold air entered the vehicle carrying the scent of pine, rain, and exhaust. License and registration, Travis barked. There was no greeting. He did not ask whether she understood the reason for the stop. He simply issued a demand. Mariah slowly turned toward him. Her face was beautiful but severe, carved with the composure of someone who had stared down cartel leaders and serial predators. She studied the young officer's rigid jaw, the hand resting dangerously close to his holster, and the rainwater dripping from his nose. Good evening, officer, she said in a low, controlled voice. May I ask why you stopped me? I asked for your license and registration, Travis repeated more loudly. He leaned toward the window and aimed the flashlight directly into her eyes. He saw a black woman wearing a silk blouse. Inside his mind, the image did not make sense. Do you own this vehicle, ma'am? I do, Mariah replied calmly. The documents are inside the glove compartment. I am reaching for them now. Keep your hands where I can see them, Travis snapped. He moved backward and released the retention strap securing his firearm. Mariah stopped. Her pulse did not suddenly race. She had witnessed too many courtroom confrontations to panic easily, but cold anger began tightening inside her stomach. Officer, I cannot retrieve the registration without moving my hands. Which instruction would you prefer me to follow? Step out of the vehicle, Travis ordered. Now. For an ordinary traffic stop? Mariah asked, narrowing her eyes. I have constitutional rights, officer. Unless you are placing me under arrest, I will remain inside the vehicle. Travis's face flushed. He was not accustomed to resistance. He was accustomed to fear. I told you to get out. I have reason to believe this vehicle is stolen. The plate does not appear in the system. You can step out willingly, or I will pull you out. Mariah stared at him. She saw immaturity inside his eyes. It was the dangerous combination of authority and insecurity. She understood the law more thoroughly than Travis understood his own hand. She also knew that even lawful resistance might cause him to become violent. And a dead woman could not file a complaint. Slowly and deliberately, Mariah released the seatbelt. She opened the door and stepped into the heavy rain. Her heels sank slightly into the mud beside the road. "Turn around! Put your hands on the hood!" Travis shouted as he forced her toward the front of the vehicle. "This is a mistake," Mariah said with her face near the cold, wet metal of her own car. "You are making a mistake that will end your career." "I hear that from people all the time," Travis replied with a cruel laugh. He grabbed her wrists and twisted them behind her back with unnecessary force. The handcuffs closed. Click, click. The sound seemed louder than the thunder. The interior of the patrol vehicle smelled of stale coffee and disinfectant. Mariah sat in the rear seat with her hands becoming numb inside the cuffs. The hard plastic offered no comfort. She watched the back of Travis's head as he drove. He contacted his supervisor by radio. "Sergeant, I have an uncooperative female suspect." The vehicle returned no record. "Possible altered identification number. I am bringing her in on suspicion of grand theft auto and resisting arrest." Mariah's voice traveled through the metal partition. "The vehicle is not stolen. It was recently purchased from Mercedes-Benz of Linwood. The plates are customized. When you run the vehicle identification number instead of relying upon a plate error, the records will confirm ownership." Travis looked at her through the rearview mirror. "You know a great deal about police procedure for a car thief." "I know the law," she replied. "I also know that you have not advised me of my rights." "I do not need to advise you of anything unless I am questioning you." Travis scoffed, repeating a half-remembered academy lesson. "I am not asking questions. I am telling you that you are going to jail." "Officer Keene," Mariah said after reading the nameplate visible from the rear seat, "I am giving you one opportunity to correct this. Call your watch commander. Give that person my name, Mariah Estelle Whitfield." Travis increased the radio volume, drowning her voice beneath police static and country music. Adrenaline made him feel powerful. He had impounded a luxury automobile. He had placed a suspect in custody. He imagined that the arrest would impress his supervisors. They arrived at the precinct. The secure garage door opened with a mechanical groan. Travis pulled Mariah from the cruiser. Her stiff legs caused her to stumble briefly, but she immediately recovered. She entered the booking area with her head raised despite the handcuffs and the rain-soaked silk blouse clinging to her body. Fluorescent lights flooded the room. The precinct carried the chaotic energy of a busy booking period. Intoxicated detainees sang from a holding area. A suspected thief argued with a desk sergeant. Travis marched Mariah toward the intake counter. Sergeant Dean Holloway, a weary, veteran officer wearing glasses, looked up. Dean had served long enough to believe that he had seen almost everything. "What do you have, Keene?" he asked while stretching his hands. "Grand theft auto, resisting arrest, and possibly assaulting an officer." She pulled away when I applied the cuffs. The lie came easily. Mariah remained silent. She understood that words could no longer stop what was happening. The system had become a machine. Once the machinery began moving, explanations could not halt it. She needed to wait for something strong enough to break the mechanism. Dean studied her. Something about the woman appeared familiar. Perhaps it was her posture or the way she held her chin. Most detainees stared toward the floor or glared with open hostility. Mariah looked disappointed. "Name?" Dean asked. "Mariah Estelle Whitfield," she answered clearly. Dean entered the information. He paused and pressed the key again. Then he studied the screen and looked toward Mariah. A frown appeared upon his face. "Keene," Dean said quietly, "did you check her criminal history?" The system inside the cruiser was malfunctioning. "I brought her directly here." "Why? Does she have outstanding warrants?" Travis leaned against the counter and smiled. "No," Dean replied slowly, "she does not have any warrants." "Then process her." "I need to return to patrol. The tow company is collecting the Mercedes." "Fingerprints first," Dean said. His eyes remained upon Mariah with an unusual expression. He did not reveal what appeared upon the screen. The motor vehicle record listed her occupation. Perhaps Dean believed that arrogant young officers sometimes needed to tighten the rope around themselves. Or perhaps he could not believe the record. Maybe he assumed that the system referred to a different Mariah Whitfield. They collected her fingerprints. They photographed her. "Turn left. Turn right." Mariah followed every instruction with mechanical precision. She did not cry or plead. She was collecting evidence. Every unnecessary shove, dismissive remark, and procedural violation entered the steel trap of her memory. "Do you want your telephone call?" Travis asked mockingly as he escorted her toward the holding cell. No, Mariah answered. I do not want to wake anyone. I will wait until court. Travis laughed. Your choice. Enjoy the accommodations. It is not a Mercedes, but at least it has a toilet. He pushed her into the cell. The door closed with a metallic crash that carried absolute finality. Mariah sat upon the cold concrete bench and closed her eyes. She was not thinking about the temperature. Her thoughts were upon the court docket. She was scheduled to preside over the upcoming arraignment session. Mariah opened her eyes and examined the graffiti covering the cell wall. A small and frightening smile touched her lips. I will see you in court, Officer Keene, she whispered into the empty cell. During the precinct's shift change, Travis was exhausted but energized. He had spent the remainder of his duty period writing the arrest report. He carefully exaggerated Mariah's supposedly suspicious behavior to justify the absence of probable cause for the stop. Travis was drinking an energy beverage inside the break room when Sergeant Cole Danner entered. Cole was Travis's mentor, a large officer with closely cut hair and a reputation for bending regulations. Good arrest? Cole asked while chewing upon a toothpick. I recovered a stolen luxury vehicle, Travis bragged. The driver was difficult. She acted as though she owned the city. Did she request an attorney? No. She refused the telephone call and said she would wait for court. She probably understood that no one was going to pay her bail. You are assigned to arraignments, Cole said. Judge Whitfield is presiding. She is extremely demanding, so make certain the paperwork is clean. When you bring her a weak case, she will tear it apart. I am prepared, Travis replied. I will mostly observe, but I may have to testify regarding the resisting charge. Travis showered inside the precinct locker room and changed into his formal uniform. He believed he looked impressive. While driving toward the courthouse, he rehearsed his testimony. Officer safety, unpredictable driving. The suspect became combative. The King County Courthouse was an enormous building of marble and glass. Travis passed through the security checkpoint, greeted the deputies, and entered courtroom 4B. The courtroom was crowded. Defense attorneys wearing inexpensive suits whispered to frightened clients. Families sat close together upon the benches. The air carried the smell of floor polish and anxiety. Travis occupied a seat reserved for law enforcement officers and spoke with several colleagues. Who is presiding? One officer asked. Whitfield, Travis answered. I have never seen her, but I have heard that she is difficult. Difficult, another officer replied. She is a buzzsaw. She worked as a prosecutor before becoming a judge. She recognizes every trick. Do not hesitate when answering her. All rise. The bailiff's voice struck the room like cannon fire. Everyone stood. Conversation ended immediately. The door behind the bench opened. Travis came to attention with his chest forward and chin raised. A figure emerged. She wore the black robes of judicial authority. The fabric moved around her like the wings of a crow. She crossed the courtroom with terrifying grace and climbed the steps toward the bench. Her expression revealed nothing. Before sitting, she surveyed the defendants, attorneys, and finally the law enforcement section. Travis stopped breathing. He blinked and rubbed his eyes. The woman wearing the robes had the granite expression and steady eyes he had confronted beneath the rain. It was the woman he had called a car thief. The world seemed to tilt. Blood drained from Travis's face so quickly that dizziness overtook him. His knees weakened. He seized the bench in front of him to prevent himself from falling. It could not be true. Perhaps she was someone who merely looked similar. Perhaps she had a twin. Judge Mariah Whitfield took her seat. She adjusted her glasses, the same glasses Travis had seen hanging near the mirror of the Mercedes. She collected a case file and raised her eyes toward the law enforcement section. Mariah did not scan the group. She looked directly at Travis. There was no anger inside her stare. It was worse than anger. It was absolute clinical recognition. Be seated, Judge Whitfield said in the same low voice Travis had ignored and mocked. The memory of her warning struck him with tremendous force. I am giving you one opportunity to correct this. You are making a mistake that will end your career. He had arrested the judge. He had assaulted the judge. He had locked the judge inside a cell. Travis began breathing in short, shallow bursts. The officer beside him nudged his arm. Are you all right, Keene? You look as though you're going to be sick. I need to leave. You cannot leave. You are listed on the docket. Judge Whitfield struck the gavel. The sound entered Travis's ears like a gunshot. We have a full docket, she announced. Before addressing the ordinary arraignments, however, this court must examine a procedural irregularity involving a recent booking. Is a representative from the district attorney's office present? A young assistant district attorney stood with a confused expression. Yes, Your Honor. Is Officer Travis Keene present? Absolute silence filled the courtroom. Every person turned toward him. Travis felt exposed. He slowly rose while his legs shook. Present, Your Honor, he whispered. Speak clearly, officer, Mariah said, her voice cutting through the air. You had no difficulty making yourself heard upon the highway. Murmurs erupted throughout the courtroom. Approach the bench, she ordered. Your sergeant should accompany you when he is present inside the building." Travis walked along the center aisle. The distance seemed endless. He felt the eyes of the defense attorneys, detainees, clerks, and officers. They sensed that something extraordinary was about to happen. When Travis reached the front, he stared at the wooden surface of the bench. He could not look toward Mariah. "Look at me, Officer Keene," she said softly. He forced himself to raise his head. "Do you recognize me?" "Yes, Your Honor," Travis stammered. Tears of terror began gathering inside his eyes. "You arrested a woman for possessing a stolen vehicle. You claimed that her plates were fraudulent. You stated that she resisted arrest and represented a flight risk." Judge Whitfield leaned forward. "That vehicle is currently inside the police impound lot. That woman was confined inside cell 3. That woman is now sitting in this chair." The assistant district attorney dropped his pen. The court reporter stopped typing and stared at the judge with her mouth open. "I did not know," Travis pleaded. "The system said there was no record. When I identified myself, offered you the registration documents, and requested that you contact your commander, you believed I was lying because I was a black woman driving a luxury vehicle." Mariah did not shout. She did not need to. The question remained inside the air, heavy and suffocating. "No, I only—" "Officer Keene," she interrupted, "you violated my civil rights and demonstrated incompetence so severe that it calls every arrest you have made into question. We will not examine that issue here. That responsibility belongs to internal affairs." Her attention moved toward the rear of the courtroom. "Sergeant Danner, step forward." The large supervisor approached. He no longer resembled a confident bull. He looked frightened. "Judge Whitfield, I had no knowledge." "Clearly," she replied. "An officer under your supervision booked a sitting judge into your precinct, and no one properly examined the records or verified her identity. Is that the manner in which you supervise your department?" "It was an unusually busy period. It is about to become considerably busier." Mariah returned her attention to Travis. "Officer Keene, you are remanded into the custody of the bailiff." Travis's eyes widened. Why?" "Contempt of court. I am also issuing a bench warrant for your arrest upon allegations of false imprisonment, assault under color of authority, and perjury concerning your police report." "You cannot do this. I am—" "Not anymore," Judge Whitfield said. She brought down the gavel. "Bailiff, take him into custody. Place him inside cell 3. He is already familiar with it." He personally described the accommodations as sufficient. The bailiff was a powerful man who had worked beside Mariah throughout much of her judicial career and respected her deeply. A grim smile touched his face as he approached Travis. "Turn around." Travis felt the cold steel handcuffs close upon his wrists. This time the restraints belonged to him. "No, please, Judge. I am sorry," he cried, while the bailiff pulled him away. "Next case," Judge Whitfield announced, her expression returning to stone. The door of cell 3 slammed shut with a vibration that rattled Travis's teeth. Heavy silence followed, interrupted only by water dripping from a damaged pipe. It was the same leak he had mocked when other detainees entered the cell. "Do not slip," he often sneered. Now Travis sat upon the metal bench with his knees bouncing uncontrollably. The cell smelled of mildew and old sweat. He had always associated that odor with criminals and people he considered beneath him. Now it clung to his own clothing. He looked toward the rust-stained stainless steel toilet without a seat. His words returned like a curse. "It is not a Mercedes, but at least it has a toilet." Travis closed his eyes and attempted to awaken from the nightmare. When he opened them, the graffiti remained. Crude drawings, gang names, and markings covered the walls. One name was familiar: T-Bone. Travis had arrested T-Bone after a noise complaint became a physical confrontation. The man repeatedly complained that the cuffs were too tight. Travis had laughed. "Ooh, fresh meat," a voice called from the neighboring cell. Travis froze. "I recognize those boots," the deep, gravelly voice continued. "That sounds like Officer Keene. Heavy heels. Is that you, Keene?" Travis did not answer. He pressed himself into the corner and attempted to disappear. "It is you," the voice laughed. "I watched them bring you inside. Information moves quickly in this place. I heard you arrested the Queen herself. You placed handcuffs upon Lady Justice. Is that true?" The voice belonged to Malik Sutton, a low-level drug dealer Travis had assaulted inside an alley. Malik filed a complaint about an injured rib. Travis claimed that Malik had fallen. The complaint disappeared. How is the view from the inside, Keen? Malik shouted while pounding upon the wall. Are you going to contact your union representative? I heard the representative abandoned you inside the courthouse hallway. Travis covered his ears. His breathing again became rapid and uncontrolled. Outside the cell, the story was spreading through the city. The incident did not remain inside the courthouse. A court reporter posted details of the exchange online. A defense attorney gave the information to a major Seattle newspaper. Mariah Whitfield's name began trending across social media beside discussions about police badges and racial profiling. The most damaging development came when Police Chief Warren Sloan appeared before a wall of microphones. Warren understood politics. He knew when to defend an officer and when to remove one person in order to protect the department. The Seattle Police Department holds every officer to the highest standards of integrity, he announced with a grave expression. We are aware of the incident involving Officer Travis Keen and the Honorable Judge Mariah Whitfield. The alleged conduct does not represent our values. Officer Keen is suspended without pay, while Internal Affairs conducts an expedited investigation. In the interest of transparency, the department will release the body camera footage. Reporters gasped. News organizations normally fought for extended periods to obtain police recordings. Releasing the footage so quickly carried a clear message. The department was sacrificing Travis to save itself. The recording became public. People watched Travis approach the Mercedes. They heard his disrespectful voice. They observed Mariah's controlled and remarkably polite behavior. They witnessed the unnecessary force and heard the handcuffs closing. Then online investigators discovered something even more damaging. The high-definition body camera recording captured a reflection of Travis's mobile data terminal in the cruiser window before he approached the Mercedes. A social media user enlarged the image. Travis had entered the wrong plate number. The computer initially returned no record. Almost immediately, the system corrected the mistake and displayed a yellow notification asking whether he intended to search the correct license plate. The alert identified a Mercedes-Benz S-Class registered to Mariah Whitfield, a judge of the King County Superior Court. The vehicle's status appeared as clear. The yellow message flashed brightly. Travis looked directly toward it. Then he removed the alert from the screen and muttered, "Got you." He had not merely made a mistake. He ignored correct information because it contradicted the story he wanted to believe. Travis wanted an arrest. He wanted a trophy. The public reaction became explosive. This was not ordinary negligence. It was intentional misconduct. After securing release pending trial, Travis sat inside the office of Felix Mercer, a criminal defense attorney known throughout Seattle for his aggressive representation. Felix did not work for the police union. After examining the body camera recording and terminal logs, the Police Benevolent Association declined to finance Travis's defense. The organization concluded that his intentional misconduct fell outside the legitimate scope of police duty. Travis emptied his savings and borrowed money from his parents to retain Felix. The attorney was a small man with perfectly styled hair and eyes that seemed to calculate the financial value of everyone he met. Felix sat behind a mahogany desk and repeatedly played the body camera recording. "Stop it," Travis whispered with his head buried inside his hands. "Please stop playing it." Felix paused the video. "I regularly represent people accused of killing police officers," he said. "There is a certain irony in representing an officer who destroyed his own career." "Can we win?" had Travis asked. "It was a mistake. The rain affected the screen." "Do not lie to me," Felix snapped. "I can defend someone accused of a crime. I cannot defend a liar who believes his own lies. The system logs prove that you cleared the alert. You saw the correct information and ignored it. Why?" "She looked at me," Travis stammered. "She looked at me as though I were insignificant, as though she were better than me. I wanted to bring her down. I did not know she was a judge. I assumed she might be connected to a drug dealer. I only wanted to frighten her." Felix leaned back and joined his fingers together. "There is the motive. You arrested her because she did not fear you. Do you understand whom you chose to attack?" "Judge Whitfield," Travis muttered. "Mariah Whitfield," Felix corrected. Before becoming a judge, she was an assistant district attorney who dismantled the Grim Sleepers gang. She convicted a corrupt state senator. She is one of the most formidable legal minds in Washington, and you placed her inside a cage. Felix dropped a file upon the desk. Internal Affairs completed its investigation. Agent Tessa Monroe interviewed you and recommended termination and criminal prosecution. The district attorney is charging you with false imprisonment, third-degree assault, and official misconduct. You face 2 felony charges and a serious misdemeanor. "Felonies?" Travis rose from the chair. "I cannot have a felony conviction. I will never work in private security, much less law enforcement." "Sit down," Felix ordered coldly. "You are no longer fighting to preserve your career. You are fighting to avoid imprisonment. When you enter prison as a corrupt officer who racially profiled a black judge, general population will be extraordinarily dangerous. Travis returned to the chair as the color disappeared from his face. What do? We plead for mercy. We hope that Judge Whitfield is as compassionate as she is committed to justice, but the prosecutor is not offering an agreement. They intend to make an example of you. This case is going to trial. Who is presiding? Judge Rowan Blackwell. Travis's eyes widened. The hangman? The same judge, Felix replied grimly. And Judge Whitfield is one of his regular bridge partners. The criminal trial of the state of Washington versus Travis Keene did not merely attract public interest. It consumed the city. When proceedings began, the King County Courthouse resembled a fortress under siege. Umbrellas and protest signs filled the plaza. Chants demanding justice vibrated through the limestone walls and penetrated the silence of courtroom 1A. Inside, the atmosphere felt thick enough to choke upon. It carried the odor of wet wool, polished floors, and the bitter sweat of a man who understood that he was drowning. Travis sat at the defense table as a hollow version of the officer he had once been. The period leading to trial stripped away his arrogance and left only fear. His parents purchased a suit for him because his old clothing no longer fit his thinner body. The fabric hung loosely from his shoulders. He kept his hands tightly clasped to conceal the trembling. Felix Mercer sat beside him. The attorney looked unusually grim. Felix earned his living by finding weaknesses inside criminal cases. This case contained none. It was not a net with holes. It was a steel cage whose door had been welded shut by Travis's own conduct. District Attorney Gideon Shaw led the prosecution with surgical precision. He did not shout or perform for the gallery. He presented the events of the rainy traffic stop as carefully as a medical examiner arranging instruments. The trial immediately became devastating for the defense. A precinct information technology specialist entered the witness stand and projected the mobile terminal records upon large screens. As the jury can see, Gideon said, while indicating the data, the system initially returned a no record error because Officer Keene entered the wrong license plate. The terminal then corrected the mistake. It displayed the registered owner's name, Mariah Whitfield. It identified her occupation as a judge. It showed that the vehicle was legally registered and clear. What did Officer Keene do? He removed the alert, the technician answered. He swiped it away almost immediately after it appeared. Travis stared at the table. He felt the jurors studying him. They no longer saw a police officer. They saw a liar. The technical records, however, did not truly dismantle Travis. That happened when the bailiff opened the heavy oak doors and announced the prosecution's central witness. The state calls the Honorable Mariah Whitfield. The courtroom became completely silent. Even the court reporter paused. Mariah entered without judicial robes. She wore a tailored navy suit that carried equal authority. Her stride remained measured. Her expression revealed nothing. She did not resemble a victim. She appeared to embody the law itself. Calm, inevitable, terrifying. Mariah entered the witness stand, took the oath, and adjusted the microphone. Judge Whitfield, Gideon began respectfully, please describe your interaction with the defendant. Mariah turned her head. For the first time since the arraignment, she looked directly at Travis. He attempted to hold her gaze and search for some trace of the angry criminal he had convinced himself she was. He found nothing. Her eyes were clear, deep, and filled with devastating intelligence. It was an encounter defined by assumption, Mariah said, her voice carrying through the silent room. Officer Keene approached my vehicle not with a question but with a conclusion. He decided who I was before he looked at my face. When the truth of my identity contradicted his prejudice, he chose violence instead of verification. Gideon moved backward and allowed her words to settle. Did he appear physically afraid of you? The defense claims that he acted out of concern for his safety. Mariah paused and studied Travis as though examining something contained beneath glass. No, she said quietly. He was not afraid of physical injury. He was afraid of his own insignificance. Murmurs passed through the gallery. Judge Blackwell struck the gavel once. Please explain, Gideon said. Officer Keene saw a black woman driving an expensive automobile, Mariah continued. Inside his worldview, that image did not correspond with an innocent and law-abiding citizen. But when I spoke with authority and asserted my rights, his insecurity became visible. He needed to dominate the encounter in order to feel important. He was not enforcing the law. He was protecting his ego. He became rude, dismissive, and violent because treating me with respect would have required him to acknowledge that I was his equal or perhaps his superior. Travis felt the breath leave his lungs. Mariah had reached into his chest, removed the insecurity he had hidden from himself, and placed it before the jury. He was not an extraordinary monster. He was something smaller. He was a bully. Felix attempted to cross-examine her. The effort resembled a child attempting to challenge a gladiator. Mariah answered each question politely and briefly. Every response made the defense appear more desperate. No further questions. Felix finally whispered. Defeat surrounded him. The jury deliberated briefly. When the foreperson rose to announce the decision, Travis closed his eyes. We, the jury, find the defendant, Travis Keene, guilty of false imprisonment, guilty of assault in the third degree, and guilty of official misconduct. Each word struck Travis like a physical blow. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Judge Rowan Blackwell looked down at Travis over the edge of his glasses. The judge had earned the nickname the Hangman because of his severe sentencing practices. He was an old-fashioned jurist who considered the police badge a sacred trust. To him, a corrupt officer caused damage beyond that committed by an ordinary criminal. A corrupt officer poisoned the source of justice. Mr. Keene, stand, Judge Blackwell ordered. Travis rose. His legs shook so violently that he needed the defense table for support. You disgraced your uniform, the judge began in a low and dangerous voice. You treated this court's colleague and, through her, the entire concept of justice as an object upon which you could exercise your prejudice. You possess the authority to take both liberty and life. You use that authority to protect your pride. Judge Blackwell leaned forward. Society gives police officers weapons and power upon the condition that they possess the wisdom required to use them. You possess neither? This court sentences you to a substantial term inside a state penitentiary. Your certification as a peace officer in Washington is permanently revoked. You will never carry a badge again. The gavel fell. Bang! It sounded like the closing of a coffin. The bailiff, who had once joked with Travis inside courthouse hallways, approached with a grim expression. He pulled Travis's hands behind his back. Click, click. The sound of the handcuffs was identical to the sound Travis had inflicted upon Mariah. The symmetry was complete. The consequences were absolute. As the bailiff pushed him toward the side door leading to the holding cells, Travis looked backward for the final time. The courtroom had become chaotic. Reporters shouted. His mother sobbed from the gallery. Inside the noise, one person remained completely still. Mariah Whitfield sat in the front row and collected her purse. She stopped and raised her eyes. Their gazes met. Mariah did not smile or celebrate. There was no triumph upon her face, only solemn and heavy finality. She gave Travis one slow nod. It did not offer forgiveness. It simply acknowledged that the lesson had been delivered and the balance restored. Travis turned away. Tears finally escaped as the heavy door closed behind him, sealing him inside the darkness he had created. Prison was not the chaotic battlefield Travis had imagined from movies. For a disgraced police officer, it was something worse. It was a tomb filled with absolute silence. Because he had once worked in law enforcement, prison officials immediately recognized that he would become a target. Placing him among the general population would have exposed him to almost certain violence. The gangs and criminals he once harassed would have attacked him immediately. Authorities placed Travis inside protective custody within a unit the prisoners called Punk City. He spent nearly all of each day inside a concrete cell measuring 6 feet by 8 feet. The room smelled of industrial disinfectant and despair. There was no window. A narrow opening inside the steel door revealed only a gray corridor. Time did not seem to move inside protective custody. It decayed. Travis created a ritual to prevent himself from screaming. He paced. 3 steps forward. Turn. 3 steps backward. Turn again. He counted the metal rivets in the bunk. He counted the cracks inside the ceiling. The irony pressed against his chest with physical weight. Throughout his career, Travis had stripped people of freedom and thrown them into the rear of his cruiser without considering what happened afterward. Now he had become inventory. He was a number. Inmate 98442. He remembered tightening the handcuffs around Mariah's wrists. Click, click. The sound haunted his dreams. He awoke sweating inside the darkness, feeling the phantom pressure of steel around his own wrists. During his sentence, a plain white envelope arrived. There was no return address, but Travis recognized the handwriting. It came from Harper, the woman who had planned to marry him. His fingers trembled as he opened it. There was no emotional farewell and no lengthy explanation. The envelope contained only a pawnshop receipt. Harper had sold the engagement ring. A short note was attached. The reporters will not leave my parents alone. I cannot do this, Travis. I cannot become the wife of the officer who arrested the judge. Do not write to me. Not. Travis sat upon the edge of the bunk and stared until the ink became blurred. He did not cry. He believed he had lost the right to cry. He simply felt another part of his humanity break away. Travis turned toward books. He could not concentrate upon fiction. He studied the law. During his limited recreation period, he visited the prison library and collected dusty volumes concerning criminal procedure. He read about investigative traffic stops. He studied probable cause. For the first time, without a badge or firearm protecting his ego, he understood the words. A sick realization formed inside him. He had not merely been aggressive upon the highway. He had behaved like a tyrant. He had broken the very covenant he had sworn to defend. Travis eventually received early release under supervision because his isolation left few opportunities for disciplinary trouble. The world outside was not the world he remembered. When the correctional facility's iron gates opened, no one waited for him. There was no celebration. Harper was gone. Only a gray Washington drizzle greeted him. Travis boarded a bus toward Tacoma. He could not return comfortably to Seattle because too many people recognized his face. He rented a studio apartment inside a deteriorating building near the port. The carpet smelled of cat urine. The radiator produced a dying mechanical noise. But the apartment represented freedom, or so he initially believed. The harsher consequences appeared when he began searching for employment. Travis applied for private security positions. Every application was denied. State law prevented convicted felons from receiving security licenses. He applied for construction work. A supervisor recognized him. "We do not need controversy at this site. Keen leave." He applied to drive deliveries. The company rejected him because his record showed that he had used a vehicle while committing a felony. Travis was physically capable of working, yet almost completely unemployable. The blue wall that supposedly protected police officers had transformed into a fortress, keeping him outside. His former colleagues refused to return his telephone calls. He had become professionally radioactive. Desperation eventually brought him to a gas station outside Tacoma that operated continuously. Bullet-resistant glass protected the counter. Fluorescent lights flickered and buzzed above the aisles. The owner, Mr. Curtis Collins, did not care about Travis's history. He needed someone willing to work the quietest and least desirable shift for minimum wage. Travis accepted the position. Life continued. The man who once walked proudly through a police precinct as though he controlled the city now cleaned slush, spilled drinks, and vomit from a gas station floor. His new uniform was a stained blue polo shirt that hung loosely upon him. Hands that once held a service pistol became rough from bleach and disinfectant. Travis appeared to age rapidly. His hair thinned. His eyes developed the dull emptiness of someone waiting for life to end. Heavy rain struck the gas station windows, turning the world outside into a blurred painting of streetlights and darkness. The electronic door chime sounded. "I will be with you shortly," Travis muttered. He knelt upon the floor, scrubbing a coffee stain from the linoleum. "Take your time," a calm and confident voice replied. Travis stood slowly as his knees cracked. He returned behind the counter. The customer was a young black man wearing a sharply tailored charcoal gray suit that reflected obvious success. He carried a bottle of water and a protein bar. Travis scanned both items. "That will be $4.50. The customer tapped a card upon the payment reader. Then he looked at Travis. It was not a casual glance. He studied the former officer and narrowed his eyes. "Wait," the man said, tilting his head. "I know you." Travis's stomach dropped. This happened occasionally. Someone recognized him, shouted an insult, or spat against the protective glass. He prepared himself. "I do not believe so, sir," Travis replied while keeping his eyes upon the register. "You only purchased the water and protein bar." "No, I definitely know you." The man moved closer to the glass. "You are Keene." "Travis Keene." Travis sighed. There was no reason to continue pretending. "That was a long time ago." The young man did not shout or spit. He released a dry laugh filled with disbelief. "You truly do not remember me?" Travis studied his face. High cheekbones. A small scar above the left eyebrow. A memory appeared. Rain. A skateboard. A teenager wearing a hooded sweatshirt and insisting that he had done nothing wrong. "Desmond," Travis whispered. "Desmond Avery." "You remember." Blood drained from Travis's face. Desmond had been a teenager when Travis arrested him for disorderly conduct. The boy talked back after Travis ordered him to stop skateboarding inside a public plaza. Travis slammed him against a brick wall, bruised his ribs, and filed charges that threatened his college financial aid. "I remember," Travis stammered. "Listen, I am only trying to perform my job." "Relax," Desmond replied. He did not sound angry. He sounded victorious. "I did not come here to cause trouble. I simply find this poetic." "Poetic?" "Yes," Desmond said as he lifted the water. "That arrest almost destroyed my future. I temporarily lost my scholarship. I considered leaving college. I became furious and hated everything about the justice system because of you." Travis gripped the counter. "I am sorry. I was a different person." "Perhaps," Desmond answered with a shrug. "Do you know who saved me?" Do you know who accepted my case when the public defender wanted me to plead guilty simply to make it disappear? Travis remained silent. He already knew. Mariah Whitfield, Desmond said. The name remained between them like a prayer. She left the bench and established a legal clinic called the Justice Integrity Initiative. She represented me without charge. She obtained the dismissal of every allegation, arranged for my record to be cleared, and helped restore my scholarship. Desmond drank some water and continued watching Travis with an intensity that made the former officer want to disappear into the floor. She told me something I have never forgotten. Do not allow one small man carrying a badge to define your entire life. Become the person who changes the rules. Desmond reached into his suit pocket, removed a business card, and pushed it through the opening beneath the protective glass. Desmond Avery, Esquire Civil Rights Attorney. I recently passed the bar examination, he said softly. I sue police departments now. I represent young people who are thrown against walls for using skateboards. I am cleaning the damage you left behind. Travis looked at the card. Gold lettering reflected the fluorescent lights. She saved me from you, Desmond said without hatred, but with undeniable truth. And now look at us. I am traveling to a strategy meeting for a class action lawsuit. You are cleaning the floor. Desmond turned toward the exit. At the door, he stopped. Have a good shift, Keen. Do not overlook any stains. The door chimed. Travis stood alone. The refrigerator units filled the silence with a constant hum. His hand shook while holding Desmond's card. The shame no longer burned with the hot anger he once understood. It felt cold and empty. He realized that he had not merely been punished. He had been surpassed. The world corrected itself, continued forward, and left him behind like discarded waste. Travis walked toward the corner to collect the mop bucket. A small television mounted upon the wall played a continuous news broadcast. The anchor began discussing national news. Travis raised his eyes. The television displayed the White House Rose Garden. The President of the United States stood behind a podium. A woman stood beside him. Her hair had become grayer and was pulled into a dignified bun. She wore a tailored cream-colored suit. Her presence commanded more authority than any uniform Travis had ever worn. The anchor announced the nomination of Mariah Whitfield to the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. The report praised Judge Whitfield's landmark work in police reform and distinguished service upon the Superior Court. It described her acceptance speech, in which she called for a justice system that valued dignity above domination. The camera moved closer to Mariah's face. She appeared serene and powerful. For one brief moment, Travis felt as though she were looking through the television and directly into the dirty gas station, seeing him standing beside the mop. He understood that she was not thinking about him. To Mariah, Travis Keen had become a footnote. He was nothing more than a pothole she had driven over during a much greater journey. That was the ultimate punishment. He was not her enemy. He was insignificant. Travis looked toward the mop bucket. Gray water moved in circles, filled with dirt and grime. He lowered the mop into it and squeezed away the excess water. The wet strands struck the linoleum. He pushed the mop forward and backward, erasing the footprints of successful people entering and leaving the store. Dignity, he whispered into the empty building. Travis continued cleaning while rain fell upon the roof. Outside, the storm washed the world. Inside, he scrubbed the floor of the life he had created. The story of Travis Keen and Judge Mariah Whitfield serves as a warning that authority without humility becomes a dangerous weapon. Travis believed his badge made him untouchable. He eventually learned that true power came from integrity, not intimidation. The real malfunction was never inside the police computer. It was inside his character. Karma did not merely punish him. It restored balance. The woman he attempted to humiliate rose toward the highest levels of justice. The officer who believed he controlled society was left cleaning the floors beneath it. When you enjoyed this intense story of justice and consequences, press the like button to support the channel. Share it with friends who appreciate powerful stories about accountability. Subscribe for more real-life inspired tales filled with dramatic twists and redemption. What would you have done in Judge Whitfield's position? Share your thoughts in the comments.